There are about 5 or 6 states where you can actually interact. And this has been one of my arguments of early voting. And I've said this on the air before. I think at some point you'll have millions of people that have voted, and we'll have something come out that a candidate is wholly unacceptable, and all these people will have already voted. And we've actually seen some of that this week.
Well, I understand. There's can always be buyer's remorse if you early vote. That's for sure.
Well, my point is, I think early voting should be. I understand it. There are elderly people. There are people that have problems with schedules that have a hard time getting out to vote. We've got people that started voting in mid-September in some states.
A few places, yeah.
I think that needs to be curtailed. I think early voting needs to be a limited amount for the convenience of people that can't get out on election day, and we need to curtail it as much as possible.
I think early voting ought to be for 1 week. If we're going to have it 1 week before the election.
But it also greatly increases the cost of elections, because instead of tailoring your campaign to one day, you've got to tailor your campaign almost to a month and a half. And it costs a lot more money. It increases the cost of our political campaigns.
I think 1 week is plenty of time. That way I won't forget that early vote is going to happen. I'll know it's 1 week. I've got 1 week to early vote if I need to and get it over with. I mean, I've gone past the deadline of early voting before, and then I go down to election day and vote. But, no big deal to me.
And by the way, we've got in Florida cases where people's absentee ballots have now been stolen, forged, and turned in as voted in their names.
Which I didn't think.
And by the way, Franklin, the people that reported that were Democrats.
Okay.
Well, I've got the story here. It's an elderly couple.
Yes, we did have a Trump supporter who was arrested for attempting to vote incorrectly.
This was an elderly
Georgia,
couple. Susan Halperin and her husband had not received their absentee ballots in the mail, so they called the Seminole County, Florida Elections Office to find out what was going on, and they were stunned to find out someone had stolen their ballots, faked their signatures, and voted. He was just floored, said Susan Halperin, a registered Democrat. To think that someone would actually steal my ballot and fill it out is creepy. So they went to checking, and they found 5 more voters in that same neighborhood. But I guess this is more of the imaginary voter fraud that Franklin says doesn't actually happen.
Well, we all know it happens. We just don't think it can be very big.
Well, here's the point. How did we find that? One couple called in. How many didn't call in?
Yeah.
How many didn't check to see if their ballot had been stolen and voted in their name?
I think that if we had voter ID, picture IDs, it'd work out real well everywhere.
Okay.
Franklin, you're awful quiet.
Well, the Fords would be against it in Memphis.
Trick or treat election. The trick or treat election. Comey opened an investigation again. Tell me, Obama said Comey will do the right thing.
Okay.
Will Comey do the right thing?
I hope so.
I hope so, too.
Whatever that happens to be.
Why do you think the investigation, I understand it was over what's her name's emails, but you think that they found something directly involving?
Well, it's difficult and I may be proven wrong, but it's difficult for me to figure out how this would ultimately be a crime for Hillary Clinton. It might be a crime for Huma Abedin.
Well, yeah, and the wonderful people at the Clinton campaign have already prepared throwing her under the bus.
Okay, well, whatever, John.
Well, they were on the campaign manager, Franklin, was on the Sunday morning talk shows. He was asked point blank, do you feel that Huma Abedin has been honest and upfront with you and the campaign? And he said, Huma Abedin has cooperated fully with the FBI. And the guy said, now, wait a minute, that's not what I asked you. Do you think she's fully cooperated and been open with the Hillary Clinton campaign? And he went, Huma Abedin has fully cooperated with the FBI, which is laying the groundwork for them to say this is all Huma Abedin's fault. We had nothing to do with it. There's loyalty for you.
That's not the point I was making, but,
What were you making?
Look, supposedly there are some emails on this laptop that's owned by Anthony Weiner. that she may or may not have had access to. Now, it's highly unlikely that those emails were sent by Hillary Clinton. That's my guess anyway. I think that's just not likely.
You think they were some about Hillary?
I don't know. And wouldn't begin to suggest that it's not something that he ought to look into.
You
I wouldn't
do
say
know
anything.
that Huma Abedin testified to the FBI that she routinely transferred emails between her and Hillary and other people to her Yahoo account.
Okay.
Which means, and by the way, just for Franklin, is
that
as
doesn't
good
mean
as
they
a
were
Democrat.
classified ones, though.
Franklin, well, you all said there wasn't any classified originally, and we now know there were. By the way, I brought a copy of one for you, Franklin. This is from Hillary to Huma. This was on some of the leaks from WikiLeaks, and it's been released and redacted, and it's redacted with all these different
John,
codes.
That's from WikiLeaks.
That's that Russian deal.
We'll get to that in a minute, but let me read you the codes, Frank. Now, this is an email that Hillary Clinton sent on her unsecured server, which she said she never sent or received classified information. It's got the B1 redaction, which is information specifically authorized by an executive order to be kept secret in the interest of national defense or foreign policy. It has a 1.4D redaction, which is foreign relations or foreign activities of the U.S., including confidential sources, and it has a B6, which is personal privacy information. There's one right there that shows Hillary Clinton lied.
Okay, you just said a moment ago that this was...
My point here is that the Hillary Clinton people have consistently lied about this, and here's a real good question for you as a defender of Hillary Clinton. She says she wants complete disclosure, Franklin. It's her personal aide, her top personal aide's computer. Why didn't she just turn to Huma Abedin and say, hey, Huma, what's on these emails?
Yeah.
What's on your computer? She has everything.
Well, it's my understanding that Huma Abedin gave testimony under oath to the FBI.
That she turned over all devices.
Okay.
So she lied
We don't know that yet.
or was mistaken.
We don't know that either.
Well, just let me point out
no,
one
wait
thing.
a minute. Hold on.
This was her husband.
This is all.
No, it was a shared computer.
This
both
is
of them.
all fine for this to be investigated, but you don't know anything yet. So don't tell me what the conclusions
let me
are.
ask you something.
We know Hillary lied.
Wait a minute. You're right. We don't know anything. Why is Hillary so upset about it? Why is she so upset because Comey opened this investigation?
Well, I think you saw a whole bunch of former Republican attorneys general who were very critical of the statement that Comey gave.
Actually, you're right about that. Comey was wrong both places. Had he impaneled a grand jury, which was actually the normal routine events for this type of investigation, had he went ahead with charges, which most people in the FBI, there were supposedly hundreds of FBI agents preparing to resign over this. Had he done that in the summer, he wouldn't have been faced with making this decision. But by the way, Franklin used lawyers are good at this, Democrats are good at this. He said a few emails. Let me just give you all the perspective.
Whoa. I don't know how many emails.
But I do. So let me give you the perspective, okay? All of the WikiLeaks emails up to this point, all of the releases by WikiLeaks has been 42,000 emails, okay?
Yeah.
This device that we're talking about that was shared by Huma Abedin, top advisor to Hillary Clinton, and apparently a child sexual predator, that device has 650,000 emails on it. So the total release by WikiLeaks is only 42,000. And this has 650,000 on it. There's your perspective. It's not a few emails. And by the way, we now know through some of the WikiLeaks leaked emails that in 2011, Hillary Clinton and her campaign team knew that Anthony Weiner was having an improper sexual relationship online with a minor child and did nothing about it. And folks, that's how we found this. Because Huma Abedin, top advisor to Hillary Clinton, allowed her emails to mix on a computer she shared with her sexual predator husband.
It just keeps getting bad, worse and worse. Why is Loretta Lynch not going to investigate pay for play?
The Attorney General isn't the one who does the investigation.
For pay to play?
But she's not the one who does that.
Would she be the one?
The FBI, if it happens, would be.
Would she be the one that would ask it to be investigated?
It's possible.
Well, let me ask a question, Franklin. As of Sunday morning, the Department of Justice under Loretta Lynch had not allowed the FBI to look at these emails, even though they had it in custody, and Anthony Weiner, the owner of the computer, was fully cooperating and had allowed them access to it. But the DOJ actually shut the Clinton investigation agents out and made them get a warrant. Why should they have to get a warrant for evidence that's already submitted?
They got a warrant for the Weiner ones also.
But Weiner had already given it to them.
But that warrant only allowed them to utilize it for certain purposes. And in order to protect the investigation and to make whatever information they got available, they got a second warrant, which was the appropriate thing to do. That's to prevent one of those technicalities down the road that would have messed up an investigation.
That Hillary's, sleazy lawyers would have brought up, I guess. You're right.
First of all, we don't even know that she's the target of the investigation.
Well, we didn't know that she had classified information on her own servers, and had we taken her word for it, we wouldn't have even looked. And then she's been proven to have lied multiple times.
I know you love the sound of your own voice, but I don't know which part of me saying that it's okay for him to investigate it you didn't hear.
Well, let me just...
I, unlike you, however, prefer these investigations to be concluded before we make our own determinations about what they mean.
Well, here's what I don't need an investigation to know.
That's right.
Listen,
you
now,
don't.
I'm going to say something. You can tell me what part of it you don't agree with. I don't need an investigation to know that if Huma Abedin was competent and was concerned about national security, she would have never commingled anything with her husband, even if he was an upstanding individual, because he didn't have security clearances and he wasn't part of the administration. But once he was a outed predator, I certainly wouldn't have allowed my emails to mix. So that in and of itself is a problem for me, Franklin, right there. What part of that's not already proven?
Okay, John, except that you don't know what emails are on there. You don't know if they're relevant or not.
Well, I do know. I just had that out for you.
I want to know how you get 650,000 emails on a laptop.
Well, it didn't say that. No, that's not what they said.
Well, they said they found a laptop.
Well, they said on the server.
Okay, on the server.
That's different.
650,000 emails.
That's a lot of emails.
That is a lot of emails. I don't care.
Well, I don't know if that's true
now,
or
keep
false.
in mind, this is coming from Huma Abedin.
That's not what's been reported by the FBI.
But this is the same Huma Abedin that left a diplomatic pouch exposed in the front seat of a car on a street in a foreign capital. You know, a diplomatic security pouch with top secret info. That's the same Huma Abedin. By the way, Franklin, we know from a John Podesta email that John Podesta and Nina Tandron, who is another advisor, were forwarded news of an investigation into Weiner's online contact with a 17-year-old Delaware high school student by Jennifer Palmieri, who is the current campaign communications director, in June of 2011. And do you know what Podesta replied to on that? Oof. 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 That was his reply. So there's your protector of women and her campaign knowing 5 years ago that Huma Abedin's husband was improperly having sexual contact with minors and did nothing to protect anybody.
What do you think he should have done?
I think he should have notified the police. I think they should have kicked him out. They should have got him out of the house right then. They probably should have got Huma Abedin. If she couldn't leave him over that, they should have got her out of the campaign.
Okay, well, here, John, you just sort of leap right over the salient information in the document you're looking at. The salient information is he was provided information of an investigation going on about the person.
Franklin, here's my point.
So in other words, the authorities already knew about it. What is he supposed to do?
You're missing the point,
No,
Frank.
I'm not missing the point.
I'll go where exactly what you're talking about. Huma Abedin was Hillary's top campaign or top leader at that time while Hillary was Secretary of State. And so the fact that she went home with that man, the fact that she continued to share a laptop with him and forwarded business, government, secure emails anywhere around him where he might have access was a national security disaster. And that shows you the kind of judgment that Hillary and whom
in 2011.
I said State Department. She was the Secretary of State at the time, Franklin. And
Podesta. Podesta's who you're talking about.
He was in the White House at the time.
Okay.
And they allowed this man to still have close proximity to obviously all this information. And we're going to trust her with our national security at this point?
You don't know what information they were provided.
I know that they didn't get him away from the information. I know that they did. I would have built a brick wall between him.
You don't
and
know that they
anything
even
at
knew
stake.
he had access to any information.
Well, we know that she's consistently lied about every other
No,
statement
we don't
about
know
this.
that.
Did she have confidential information sent or received on her email server? Did she say she didn't?
Yes, that's
Oh,
right.
by the way, just for reference here, yesterday at a campaign rally, Hillary said she was in New York City on 9/11. Guess what? She wasn't in New York City on 9/11. She was in Washington. She sang "God Bless America" on the Capitol steps on 9/11 morning with other congressmen and senators. But yesterday at a campaign rally, she said, "I was in New York City on 9/11 when the attacks happened."
She said that more than once.
She said that yesterday, Franklin, and it's a blatant lie.
Okay.
The woman can't tell the truth if it smacked her between the eyes.
Trick or treat. It's going to be the trick or treat election.
And how about the president?
20 minutes. We've been here 20 minutes.
Uh-huh.
And we're on like our 11th week of John not managing to mention his candidate.
I don't have to. Your
yes, you
campaign's a
do,
disaster.
actually, John. You do. You are the designated Republican in this room.
Yes, and I'll be voting for Donald Trump along with millions of other
I know
people.
you will.
And I think your people have succeeded in blowing this election at this point.
He's on the
So
Trump
there's
train.
your prediction right now. Is that right?
I'm telling you, the polling
I'm
is
just
looking
asking
really
you.
good.
Don't tell
Look,
me
I'm
that
not a
in polling.
gambler. I've never been a gambler. We do
You
this
were
in
not
other
betting
elections.
anything. I asked your prediction.
I think that it's been a tough campaign on both sides. I think that all of the intensity and all the movement, when I'm looking at the polls, is moving in Trump's direction. I think that the early voting numbers have not been what Democrats have wanted. The minority vote turnout in North Carolina is below 2012 marks, which is a really bad sign for the Democrats. The early voting minority turnout in Florida is below. Matter of fact, the Republicans are actually outvoting the Democrats in Florida by the same margin that they outvoted us in 2012. That's a really bad sign. There's new polling with him up in North Carolina, in Florida, in Ohio. They've got him actually even in, I think, New Hampshire now. He's ahead in Iowa. Now, there's polls that show the opposite as well. But Hillary has actually, in one poll, seen a 12-point decline in 8 days.
When you get past all that, the facts are,
Okay.
in order to win, Donald Trump essentially has to run the table.
I think there's a good chance he's going to.
I see no reason to conclude that.
Let me ask you a question, changing the entire subject. Do y'all feel the electoral vote is fair?
Well, it's what the Constitution provides.
But the way the electoral vote is figured is based on population.
Mm-hmm.
Now then, if there's 25 Mexicans living in a house illegally, they're still counting those heads to get.
Well,
that's
a different discussion.
All right.
Are you discussing the idea of the Electoral College, or are you talking about how we determine the number of votes?
How we determine the number.
Well, that's a whole different ballgame. I agree. They use the census numbers. Mm-hmm. The census does not count U.S. citizens. It counts people in the country, which includes illegal aliens, and it probably shouldn't. Now, the Democrats don't want to change that, because they also use those same numbers to determine representation in the House and the Senate.
Right.
Well, actually, in the House.
Right.
So a city like Los Angeles gets a lot more representation, which will be mostly Democrats, because they count illegal aliens.
Well, let me ask you something. If they didn't count them, do you think that we'd have open borders? Do you think the Democrats wouldn't have
Hillary
the borders open?
was on record in one of her secret speeches as saying her dream was open borders and open trade.
Well, I mean, is that because that helps the Democratic vote?
Absolutely, that's what it's about.
There she goes with one of those Republican ideas.
Do what?
Free trade across open borders was a Republican idea, not a Democratic one.
Not open borders. We can talk about trade, Franklin, but open borders is a whole different ballgame.
Well, I think she's referring to borders along the same way that we have borders with Canada.
Don't you get tired of explaining what she meant?
No,
because most
really,
people
John,
can listen.
that's the criticism?
Most people can listen and actually decide what they meant.
Actually, John, there's a difference there. Most people could actually listen. And
Well, I'll give you a good example. I got into a discussion on Facebook with someone. I had posted a story about how disturbing it was to hear Hillary Clinton laughing about getting the child rapist off that brutally raped a 12-year-old girl. And one of the replies back I got was from someone that wasn't true. It never happened. And so I replied back and said, hey, feel free to pull up the interview. It's available online. You can pull it up. You can listen to it. You know what the reply back was? A link to a Snopes.com article saying it wasn't true. Now, you think about that. What I told her to do was pull it up online and listen to it for yourself. Listen to it and see how you feel about it. And I tell everyone out there, pull up Hillary Clinton's interview when she's talking about how she got a child rapist off on for almost no time at all and laughing about it, and see how you feel about it. Make your own opinion.
We're going to try to find that right now. If Hillary loses, she could represent Wiener, couldn't she?
Probably would.
No, she couldn't. Actually.
She's not a lawyer.
She's not licensed in the state of New York.
Oh, well, Bill can't because he lost his license because he committed perjury. Yeah, it's in the middle of it. It's a 3.5-minute interview she gave in the mid-'80s.
All right.
But feel free to, folks, look it up and listen to her talking about it, chuckling and laughing about it, and see how you feel about that.
Yes, feel free.
Champion of women.
Feel free to.
By the way, when you do it, look up the victim's statements on how Hillary Clinton treated her.
And by all means, throw out the criminal justice system, and let's not require.
She said a 12-year-old wanted it and encouraged it and seduced the guy, and then she laughed about it. So look, I'm doing the same thing with you I did with the person online. I'm encouraging everyone out there, pull up the video, pull up the link to the interview, and listen to it for yourself. Make your own decision. I trust you to make that decision.
I want to go back to a question I asked, and I didn't really get much of a response. Is pay for play. Why won't Loretta Lynch ask for an investigation, since this thing has came up and it just seems so awkward. It seems so illegal. Everyone thinks it's terrible. Shouldn't there be an investigation into it?
There may be. I don't know.
Okay.
There may be.
You do know that we've now found out that the Clintons, through the Clinton Foundation, have taken millions of dollars worth of free travel, none of which was reported as in-kind donations. That's part of the Clinton Foundation. Were you aware of that, Franklin?
I'm sorry. Say that again, John.
They took millions of dollars of donated travel on luxury multimillionaires' jets all around the world, the whole family, and never reported any of it as in-kind donations to the Clinton. It doesn't show up on the Clinton Foundation tax returns as in-kind donations.
Okay.
Well, a lot of people would consider that actually illegal, Franklin.
Well, okay. Investigate that, John.
Well, they've actually tried to, and the Loretta Lynch Justice Department actually shut the investigation down back in January of this year. By the way, one of the guys that Bill Clinton flew on, I think 24 times his jet, is a child sexual predator. The jet was actually nicknamed the Lolita Express. It was supposed to have a bed on it for this multimillionaire's liaisons with young girls, and Bill Clinton flew on it 24 times, and about 7 times, guess what? He left his Secret Service detail off the flight.
Well, that kind of flight's perfect for him, isn't it?
But I mean, hey, I'm sure there's nothing wrong with that.
Oh, I tell you, this thing's getting so weird. What about Debbie Schultz and Donna Brazile? Is that
Brazile?
The Democratic National Committee? Now then, they got 2 of their top people have both been found crooked.
Well, Jeff Zucker, CNN chief, said that, now this is Donna Brazile, the DNC, Democratic National Committee acting chairman. He called her unethical and disgusting and he said that what she did hurts all of us, and I have no tolerance for her behavior or that kind of behavior. Franklin, you want to defend your new DNC chairman after your other one was forced to resign?
What was the other one forced to resign for?
Because the emails came out showing that they had favored Hillary Clinton and dumped all over all of the Bernie Sanders supporters.
I can't keep up with all these things going on. It's hard to keep up with.
Well, we now know that Donna Brazile sent a second debate question to Hillary Clinton's people, one about the Flint water crisis. Franklin, do you think it's fair for people to be getting debate questions before the actual debate?
Of course not. A better question, though, would be why in the world would they give a debate question to a partisan?
Well, that's a good question because of two reasons. One, she was an actual contracted commentator on her network, so I'm sure she had signed some confidentiality disclosures and disclosures of fairness. But secondly, CNN, you're right, Franklin, is not answering the questions about are they investigating who gave these questions to her and how she got them.
Do you think CNN should hold an investigation on this?
Internally, they probably should.
If I was CNN, I would.
Sure.
Well, they're not.
But what about the DNC, Franklin? Don't you think she should be forced out of the DNC now? Since she's been proven to have cheated to help, and then these were cheats to help Hillary against Bernie. These weren't cheats against a Republican; they were cheats against a fellow Democrat.
Okay.
Are you comfortable with her being the head of your party?
I don't really care who the head of my party is.
So a disgusting,
I don't vote for. I don't
cheating
vote for
person is okay for you.
Okay, John.
Well, I'm just using CNN's words. Unethical
John,
and disgusting.
I realize that you have a mindset that every single thing Democratic is corrupt.
She is corrupt, Franklin.
And therefore,
you just admitted
and
it.
therefore, every single thing you read is about that.
Franklin?
So you can just sit here and talk about it all day long.
Corrupt?
Because she gave an email out.
2 emails now we know of.
I don't think it's a surprise to anybody on the
is
planet.
that a yes?
I don't think it's a surprise. Do I get to answer it all?
If you'll answer straight.
Go ahead,
Could
Franklin.
you be quiet long enough?
All right, be quiet. Let him finish here.
I don't think it's a surprise to a single person on the planet that Donna Brazile is a supporter of the Clintons. Everybody knows that. Every single Democrat out there knows that.
Okay.
So, is that a huge surprise? No, not particularly.
Well, Franklin, we've done debates on a local level, and I can say that as any other American citizen, I have to walk into a voting booth and vote, but I've never given anybody any question ahead, and I never would.
Can I ask this?
And she's the head of your party.
Does Hillary Clinton have an obligation not to accept these questions?
I don't know what she got exactly.
I'll read it to you.
Well, I mean, did she get it?
You want me to read it to you?
I mean, did it come out that she got questions in advance?
Yes.
I read a story that a question had been given to her.
Would she not have an obligation?
Now, whether it was given to her directly, I don't know what that means.
Would the person running for president of the United States not have an obligation not to accept a question that's going to be asked in a public debate?
I don't know. What's the question?
He's asking you, should Hillary have had enough decency to say, I don't want it. I don't want that kind of
what was the question, John?
Well, there were 2 of them, actually. Roland Martin, they apparently have identified the first guy. Roland Martin provided Brazile with the question which concerned the death penalty, which was asked on March 13th, Town Hall with Bernie Sanders. The new one is that on March 5th, she wrote to Clinton campaign officials, and this is a quote from Donna Brazile. One of the questions directed to HRC tomorrow is from a woman with a rash. Her family has lead poison, and she will ask what, if anything, will Hillary do as president to help the people of Flint, Michigan. That's Brazile's email, which was sent to John Podesta, the Clinton campaign chairman, and communications director Jennifer Palmieri.
Okay.
What did Debbie Schultz
And by the way,
do
she
again?
was asked.
What did Debbie Schultz do again?
She showed that she had actually been slanting the whole process towards Hillary from the very start.
To Bernie. I mean, to help Hillary over
away
Bernie.
from Bernie.
And I want to ask this one last time. Would Hillary not be obligated not to take a question, in other words, not to cheat during the debate? Would she not be obligated to, as a presidential candidate, to say, I don't want the question?
Okay, if she was told that. We don't know that.
Let's drain the swamp. Let's take a break. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Backfire with Steve Hickson. We'll be right back after this.
You are listening to WOOP-LP, Cleveland, Tennessee. WOOP FM is a broadcasting service of the Traditional Music Resource Center, and we play America's original music.
New message for Tuesday, 1:35 p.m. Daniel, I just like to tell you I appreciate the good music you're putting on there playing, and especially the gospel singing on Sunday. So keep up the good work and keep playing the good country songs, not something like play. But we appreciate you so much. Thank you. Have a good day.
Check into cash. The cash you need today is waiting for you at Check into Cash. It's your money, so come in and get it.
Get a payday advance today for up to $425. At Check into Cash, we make it quick, easy, and confidential.
The cash you need is right here, so stop worrying and stop in to Check into Cash today.
Borrowers often use payday advances over a period of months, which can be expensive. Restrictions apply. See store for details.
Did you know that U.S. Money Shops cashes all checks, even the ones most check cashers reject? Tax refund checks, government checks, payroll checks, and many more. And when you cash a check with U.S. Money Shops, we'll give you 10% off your next purchase. At U.S. Money Shops, we have everything you need at a fraction of regular retail. So stop by one of our 11 locations or visit us online at usmoneyshops.com.
Buy or sell or buy today, the better way at U.S. Money Shops.
Some restrictions may apply. See store for details.
If you need a little green, Lending Frog is making deals. He'll lend you cash on any kind of wheels. Borrow just a little, or you can borrow big. Lending Frog is a new financial gig. It's hip to hop into cash. LendingFrog.com is making a splash. Dig it, dig it. Dig it, dig it.
At Buy Here, Pay Here USA, we pay the most because we buy the best. And we make selling your car to us as easy as 1, 2, 3. 1, bring your car, truck, or SUV to one of our stores. 2, we'll give you a free appraisal with no obligation. 3, sell us your car. It's that easy. At Buy Here, Pay Here USA, we buy the best, we sell the best, and we pay the most. Visit us in Cleveland, Dayton, or Chattanooga, or go to buyheresellhere.com. That's buyheresellhere.com. Restrictions apply. See store for details.
Dr. Christopher Chase, with Associates in Plastic Surgery, now offers his patients the convenience of a Cleveland office at 2350 North Ocoee Street. Dr. Chase specializes for the ladies in breast augmentation, including lifts, reconstructions, and reductions. Also, tummy tucks or mommy makeovers, and facial rejuvenation, including facelifts, eyelids, brows, nose, and he also offers Botox procedures. Check out Dr. Christopher Chase. He is certified by the American Board of Surgery, the American Board of Plastic Surgery. He's a member of the American Society of Plastic Surgeons and the American Society of Aesthetic Plastic Surgery. Check their website out at aprs.md. That's aprs.md. Call for your convenient appointment in Cleveland at 624-0021. 624-0021. 2350 North Ocoee. That's Dr. Christopher Chase.
No dealers allowed.
Jackson Catnapper, family owned and operated in Cleveland since 1933, offering the best with over 70 styles of recliners, sofas, electronic lift chairs, full living room packages. Call Mike now at 961-7239 because Jackson Catnapper now offers sales to the public
every Saturday. That's right, every Saturday.
From 8 in the morning to 1 in the afternoon. Or call Mike at 961-7239. Or go see him
every Saturday
at 1911 King Edward Avenue, just across from the main plant. Jackson Catnapper, family owned and operated in Cleveland since 1933. 961-7239.
No dealers allowed.
Train engineers put our heating and cooling products for almost every test imaginable. So while you're sending your kids to school, they're sending 10,000 volts through a compressor. Testing like this is the reason Train is so reliable. And why our engineers prefer their steaks, well, Well done.
Ready to indulge in trained comfort? Call a trained comfort specialist at Mechanical Systems, 336-5739. High-quality service and installation for more than 30 years.
It's hard to stop a train. Really hard.
This is Teresa Gilbert from the Village Bake Shop in Cleveland, Tennessee. Do you have a birthday, wedding, or anniversary coming up and want that perfect cake? Need some donuts to sweeten up your coworkers? Want to surprise your sweet thing with a bag of cookies? Then come on over to the Village Bake Shop. Family operated since 1961. The Village Bake Shop is your first and last stop for fresh baked goods that will feed your sweet tooth. The Village Bake Shop located at the Village Green Town Center. The phone number here is 423-476-5179. See you soon.
You're listening to Backfire with Steve Hickson on Whoop FM. Call 423-614-5553 to join in on the conversation. Now, back to Backfire.
All right, welcome back to Backfire's latest, last edition before the election. I'd like to welcome a guest into the studio this morning. We have Senator Todd Gardenhire in the studio this morning, and everybody give him a big round of applause. Thank you.
Our studio audience.
Studio audience.
At Whoop Worldwide headquarters.
Whoop Worldwide.
Welcome to the studio this morning, Todd.
Good to be here. Good to be here.
You know, I like a man that's up here in Cleveland working on the last day of early voting. He's up here in Cleveland, Tennessee, bright and early this morning.
Doing door to door.
Going door to door, he says.
You know, 4 years ago, I did door to door and lost 25 pounds. My wife thought I was really sick. I mean, she was concerned. This year, I've been doing more door to door than I did 4 years ago, and I've gained 5 pounds.
You must. But this is called the trick or treat election. This is called the trick or treat election, right?
Yeah. Why was? I mean, I thought the national election was always on the first Tuesday of the year of November. How come we're on the second Tuesday? Did anybody know that answer?
That'd be a John question, wouldn't it?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Those things, it's actually not as set as that, and I'm not sure what all the requirements are for how they determine
Well,
that.
I sure wish it would have been the first Tuesday. This is tiring.
What do you think about this presidential election overall?
I've never seen anything like it. I've been involved in presidential politics since 1968. 68 was the minor involvement. I was mostly involved in legislative, doing work for David Copeland, Ray Albright back in those days, and Bill Brock. But I've not seen anything like this.
Your big involvement presidentially was with President Reagan.
President Reagan. I was his co-state chairman in 76 and 80, and in 84 I went to work on his staff, on his advanced staff, and worked for him and Mrs. Reagan for 4 years.
Well, you worked during an election that was down and came back and won, right?
Yeah. 1980. This is almost without the shouting and the screaming and everything else going on. This is almost a mirror image of 1980 election. You had Jimmy Carter with 4 years of a disaster, and honest man. Jimmy Carter was I'll give him this. He was an honest but very naive individual. Got up in Washington and got eaten alive by his own party, and couldn't get anything done. That's not a reflection of him personally. That's just the way the system chewed him up. But people, the same thing. Well, Reagan's too conservative. Reagan's too old. Reagan's this. Reagan's that. And the fear
Start World War III.
Huh?
He was going to start World War
III. I mean, all the things you're hearing now, it's like history repeating itself. You're hearing the same thing this time that we heard then. But I'll never forget, 2 weeks out for the election, Reagan was down 13%, and whatever poll you had to look at. And even the Republicans in this state, people forget, even the Republicans in this state, Howard Baker and Lamar Alexander, wouldn't even say the word Reagan 2 or 3 weeks out from the race. The Reagan campaign gave the state of Tennessee, I don't know how many millions of dollars to run ads and stuff. And they took that money and they did a promotional of themselves talking about issues, never mentioned a name. And but then all of a sudden, 1 week out, the polls started changing as people thought, well, when I get in behind those curtains, if you'll remember, we had curtains back then. You had to pull and pull the lever. People started thinking about, we know what Carter is. Reagan can't be any worse, so let's try that out. And that's what happened, and that momentum changed the closer you got to Election Day. And we're almost seeing it in the polls today. I mean, the latest poll you saw last night was tied 46-46. Hillary has never gotten over 50%, and that's not good for an incumbent, no matter what you're running for.
Are you expressing the opinion that Donald Trump reminds you of Ronald Reagan?
No, I'm not saying that at all. I'm talking about the mechanics of the election.
Okay.
Yeah, I tell you an interesting story. In '84, there were problems too because Reagan was older. And if anybody wants to hear something kind of funny and interesting, pull up Bob Beckel talking about being backstage at the debate when Reagan made his "I'm not going to hold my opponent's youth and inexperience against him." Beckel talks about it. He said, when I heard that, he said, I knew we had lost. He said, at that moment, he said, you can't imagine how devastating it was to us backstage.
I thought that was a great comment. It was wonderful.
Well, it was important because if you'll remember the first debate that year, Reagan did very poorly. And raised all the concerns that people were talking about at that time. And so really that second debate probably was the turning point in that election.
Tell me what going on in the state of Tennessee. What are we going to do about Obamacare, Todd?
Well, we don't have
What's our increases?
Well, Obamacare, that's a federal issue, and it's been a disaster from the word go. Blue Cross has pulled out of a lot of the metropolitan markets except for Chattanooga. You virtually have a monopoly with the other two carriers there that have cherry-picked it. Blue Cross has all the rural areas, which means that at some point they can just have their way with whatever they want to on their rate increases because they're the only person out there, and the deductibles are going to be extremely high. That's been a very partisan plan. There was, it was passed on a partisanship basis, but that's a federal issue. Mostly it has to do with our Congress and Senate on the U.S. level, but it's trickled down to the state and confused a lot of people.
Should the state be more involved in taking care of this? In other words, get rid of the federal government on some of these issues?
Well, Lamar Alexander has a great idea, and I thought it was a wonderful idea. He said, look, federal government, you let us have all the education, and you take all the health care. You want to take care of everybody? Let the federal government do everything. Not have Medicaid, TennCare, Medicare, and all these VA and everything else. Just have one health care system. Let the federal government doesn't give all us education. We'll do all the education, leave the federal government out of it.
Do you get the same amount of revenue from Washington under that suggestion?
Washington's giving the revenue anyway.
Well, that's my question, though. Tennessee's in one of that lucky group of states that gets more back than we send up there. So
not in health care.
Yeah, but
overall we do, right?
We're talking about health care.
Well, but you talked about trading education for that. So it's a...
But Franklin,
it's a big pot. I'm just asking, do we send that revenue back then?
Yeah, but here's one thing that never gets factored.
Why should we send it up there to start with?
Yeah, that's exactly right.
No, wait.
I mean, you're the one that used the term "send it back." Why do you send it up there to start with?
Well, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that.
You're okay with us keeping the revenue?
I'm okay with.
You're okay with us keeping the revenue?
Let me finish. I'm okay with you taking over education.
State ought to have all the education.
You take it over completely, but
are you for Common Core?
Pardon?
Common
I think there are parts of Common Core that I like. Sure.
Name them.
I think the idea of getting past doing just multiple choice tests and trying to encourage students to actually analyze problems and understand it is a very important skill that has not been given enough attention in our educational system over the last 25 years.
No, it's not. It's a big problem with Common Core.
In fact, it's the central part. The central part of it.
But the curriculum is the problem with Common Core.
That is the curriculum.
Your observation on the money, the problem with that is everybody always makes static observations. The point on bringing this, keeping the money for education is you do away with the entire level of bureaucracy on the federal level. You cut all of that money out so you don't lose all of that money in D.C. We actually would probably get more money because you're not wasting it on a federal bureaucracy.
I don't know how you do better than sending $1 to Washington and getting $1.27 back. How do you do better than that?
Look,
I'll take 27% on my savings account
we'll
right
take
now.
it. We'll take it.
I can tell you,
we could
Franklin,
save
when I total up
27
my
cents if we didn't
taxes,
send it.
I don't get more back. I work every day, and between my office job and my wife's building job, we work 7 days a week. And I am pretty sick and tired of liberals in Washington like Hillary and Obama telling me I'm not paying my fair share. So I don't see this. We get more back than we put in.
It's just the fact.
Let me give you an example of the critical thinking that you're saying is such a great thing. My grandson, who I raised for about 3 years, all by myself, by the way. His mother called me up and says I can't get Blake to do his homework, and I said, well, bring him over to the house and I'll sit down with him. And he was in the third grade at the time, which is the crucial time for the Common Core stuff. And he sat down. It was his addition that he was doing. He had 346 plus 275 equals whatever. And I said, Blake, let's just walk through this. And so I did it the old-fashioned way. You take the first column and you add it up, and you carry the 1, then you carry the 2, and you get the number. And he had this look on his face that was just puzzling. And I said, now, Blake, you do this next one. This next one's yours. And so he looked at it, and he just stared at it and stared at it. I said, well, Blake, go ahead. Just add those 2 up. And he said, I don't know how to do it like you did it. And I said, what are you talking about? He said, that's not how they taught us to do it. I said, well, how in the world they teach you to do it? And he started in this explanation on just how to add numbers to critically think. And I said, look, tell you what, let's do. Let's just do it my way. You take that homework in, and then I'll call the teacher and find out what it was. And so I called his teacher the next afternoon, asked for a meeting, went over there. He said, well, no, we don't do it that way anymore. That's the old-fashioned way to do it.
You mean the way that's worked for thousands of years?
Yeah. How do they do it different?
I don't know. I still to this day don't understand how they critically think to add two numbers together.
Well,
but anyway,
by the way, he mentions math. There was only one mathematician on the curriculum committee for Common Core, and he voted against the curriculum and said it was horrible.
Well, I mean, that's another thing like Obamacare. Wasn't it put in place and then we'll work everything out later?
Well, you have to pass
Common
it before
Core?
you can find out what's in it.
Yeah. What?
Well, it's a myth that there's these textbooks that have been handed down and says, here's how you have to do it. That's not what Common Core did. In fact, local education associations had a lot of input in coming up with the particular standards that they were going to teach, and the way the teachers do it, they're allowed to tailor that themselves to a great extent.
Well, Haslam has actually worked
That's not
on
a
this
federal
lot.
mandate that you have to teach addition this way.
I'm glad you brought that up. That's real good that the local teachers had a lot to do with it, because right now they're screaming that they don't like what we're having to do in education. I think it's very interesting that you're saying that the local teachers did it. So
I'm not even defending Common Core. I'm just saying it's a myth to say that, it's this huge federal mandate telling people exactly how they have to teach kids. That's not what it did.
It is a federal mandate, Franklin.
It may be a federal mandate, but it's
you
not
can't have
that
it both
kind.
ways. You
No.
can't have it both ways. You
No,
can't say
you
it's not
guys
a
can't
federal
have it
mandate.
both
Say,
ways.
well, it is a federal mandate.
You can't have it both ways. It may be a federal mandate that you adopt Common Core, but it is not a mandate that every teacher has to teach every kid exactly this new way that you're talking about. That's something
But
that
Franklin,
teachers do.
who does the testing?
Testing.
The testing if you don't teach it the way they want, they test it. The kid can't pass the test.
Did I go to
The
sleep
kid can't
and
pass the
mention-
test.
and miss the whole part where the Republican Party spent 25 years telling how important it was that we had national testing so we could
It's
compare?
the type of,
little
look, I'm not
system
against
school system?
testing, Franklin. It's the type of testing. And what happened with Common Core is the testing forces you to have to learn it that way, because if you don't learn it that way, you can't pass the test. That's the problem with a bureaucratic top-down solution.
It's funny you should mention the Teachers Association. They're the ones that are really against accountability, and not the teachers, but the Teachers Association. We have the TEA come over to the state all the time. They'll stand in front of the committee and they'll say, "Oh, we're an association. We're not a teachers union," and then they come down here and get involved with the AFL-CIO and the Labor Council, and all of a sudden they're a union, and they want to dictate. They don't want accountability for their members, when there's other professional organizations that appeal to the teachers in a teaching profession that don't mind accountability and they want to do it. And there's been this loggerhead because whenever you hear those types of individuals talk, they never talk about what's best for the kids. They never talk about what's best for the children in the classroom. They talk about their union members or their association members and what's best for them. And let me tell you, folks, that's not why we're in the education business. We just gave over 100. Let me tell you how we did the 100. Well, the governor and Haslam and all of us in the Senate and the House on the Education Committee, we went around the BEP formula because when they turn that money over to the local districts, they can spend it as they see fit. Governor Haslam's plan was we take this $100 million and it can only go for teachers' raises. Now, let me tell you what I've been working on for 3 or 4 years, and every time I do, the Democrats in the Senate just jump up and down, scream and holler because the TEA is right behind them. What I want to do is I want to define what a teacher is. You ask anybody what a teacher is, and you get all these nice, warm and fuzzy definitions of what a teacher is. In my mind, and I know I'm a little bit older than most people, in my mind, a teacher is somebody that's actually in a classroom in front of kids, not in an administration. I've got nothing against administrators, some great people there. But if we're going to help teachers, let's put the money where the teachers are and not where the administration is or all these other things that you have to do. And let me give you a perfect example of what we're facing in the next couple of years. Anybody can teach in Tennessee and serve 20, 25 years. They get a nice pension. They've earned it. But then they can go south, cross the line, sometimes less than 15 miles, teach in Georgia, get a little bit higher pay raise, and get another pension and retire with 2 pensions. I think that's great to do that, except that we're losing our talent to North Georgia, which we ought not be doing. And it's not these people's fault for doing it. I don't blame them.
I had teachers when I went to high school that did the same thing.
Yeah.
They coached football, they taught school, they spent 25 years there, and then they retired out and went down here to Dalton and started.
Yeah, you can't blame them. I mean, but it's our system that allows that to happen. If we had the teachers in the classrooms making more than the administrators or on a higher level, then we could retain those people. What we got the baby boomer teachers that are aging out and going away. We have the millennials that are coming along, and they're going to look at they can count better than we can. They can say, okay, I can spend 20, 25 years working in Tennessee, and then I go to Georgia or go to Alabama or Kentucky, and it's just a great deal for them. I don't blame them.
It's refreshing to meet a Republican that I could work with. He's been setting forth the position that I've been saying in here for the last 4 years. If you want to do an education reform, I say you pay teachers more. You'll get better quality people coming into the profession. You'll get people who stay there longer when they're successful.
So you might agree with me that we need to redefine the word teacher, and instead of saying anybody that has a teaching certificate, and that's the way it's defined now, a teaching certificate, which means that somebody that hadn't been in a classroom in 20 years is considered and gets the same benefits as a person in the classroom.
I guess I would use the term classroom teacher.
If
that works with you.
So you would agree with me that we ought to have a definition that defines what that classroom teacher is, and maybe say they have to spend X percentage of their time in front of children.
In the classroom.
In the classroom.
Let me put it to you this way. I'm not offended by what a starting teacher makes from a salary standpoint. I'm greatly offended by what a veteran successful teacher makes.
But frankly, the problem in
because I think it's far below the service that they're providing.
But your position now puts you at odds with the TEA. That's the point. And the TEA gives all of their service to the Democrat Party, not the Republican Party.
Well, okay, let's be clear here. Last time I checked in the Tennessee General Assembly, whatever the Democrats' opinions are, don't count for very much.
That's because y'all are wrong on too
if you
many
want
of the
this
issues.
reform, I don't know why it hadn't passed.
Well, it will.
Will it? I haven't heard
Well, look,
that.
here's one of the problems, though. The TEA, first off, for years they had a stranglehold on the teachers because they had to get their liability insurance, and the only place you could get it was through the TEA. So they virtually forced a monopoly onto the teachers. We finally broke that, and you started to see some of these other professional organizations crop up. But they're very good at stirring up the teachers, and the teachers are a very loyal voting base.
I have actually not found teachers, particularly in this portion of the state, to be particularly single-minded in their voting.
Well, look, I'll give you another example of what Todd's talking about on a local level. We discussed this when my wife was chairman of the local education committee. She discussed, do you want money in the classroom or do you want bricks and mortar? And our local school director at the time, the county director, in a county commission meeting said bricks and mortar. So we've spent over $100 million building schools, and they're nice schools. They're really wonderful schools. But I'd rather see that money go into the classroom like Todd's talking about.
I have a question for you.
Oh, no.
One of my big peeves with education is the time they take off and don't go to school anymore. And when I say that, I think the high schools or the schools have got into tourism in a big way. I've got friends that own businesses in tourism and some of these type of things. And I remember when I was a kid growing up, I always looked forward to a certain holiday. And that holiday is when school was out. And I dreaded the other holiday when school went back, unfortunately. But I loved it when it was from holiday to holiday. Now, I've got a friend that's in the tourist industry business, a huge industry, and he told me he's got 8 weeks now. That's all he's got.
8 weeks of what?
Of being able to provide tourism. Summer.
The summer break.
The summer break.
Let me ask you just an opinion. And there's not a right or wrong on this, but I know North Georgia, a couple of the districts down there, added 20 minutes to the school day and were able to get rid of the entire month of August. Now, from a local standpoint, August is the worst month in the year to try and cool a building down. It's the most expensive energy usage. They all said 20 minutes on each day didn't impact anybody's schedule. The kids then actually got 3 months of summer like we used to get when we were a kid. How would you feel about that concept?
I don't have a problem with it.
Well, for some reason,
let me tell you this. On every bill every idea that we have, the main thing, and I said this 4 years ago, the main thing you have to look at is what's the unintended consequences of anything you do. And while saying we add 20 minutes to the day, what does that do to everybody else? Take Hamilton County. I'm going to talk about Hamilton County for a minute because I'm very familiar with the school bus system there. A lot of those school bus drivers have to run 2 routes in the morning, 2 routes in the afternoon. And we've got some schools that literally start at 7 o'clock in the morning so that the school bus drivers can pick up another load and take them to an 8 o'clock school.
Right.
And so, while it may sound good to add 20 minutes to it, you're going to mess up that route. And if the local commissioners or school members doesn't want to allocate more money to school buses and school bus drivers, that's the unintended consequences of a great idea.
Right.
Why do we have these fall breaks, spring breaks, Easter breaks, whatever breaks they have now, that takes so many more breaks than they used to take? Basically, I call them teachers' vacations.
Let me tell you that they're not a teacher vacation. A lot of those breaks, the teachers have to go to in-service training, and they're working during that time. They're preparing. I know as a layman, you might think they're taking a break, and I can understand that, but it's not like, okay, guys, let's go to Florida for the week with the kids. A lot of those teachers are actually preparing for the next session that takes them to the end of the
They used to do that when I went to school, and they had we had a couple of days that they took off for some kind of educational
in service training.
Yeah. That went on when I went to school, but right now you've got school starting back the first week of August.
Yeah, but Steve, that's actually part of the, you can discuss, do you want 2 months or 3 months in the summer? But they're still getting the 3 months. It's just they don't get it all in a block in the summer. Yeah. They get some of it in October. They get some of it.
Well, that's what I'm talking about.
The local systems are pretty much responsible for their own.
It's harder on the parents that have kids in school for them to take off for these little holidays and so forth. I think I've heard a lot of parents complain about, having to deal with the kids being off so much.
There's a large section of parents out there that literally want school to be year round, so that the parent can go and have a job and not have to take care of the kids during the daytime. But there's a large section out there when you do the poll and poll the question, there's a large section of people with school-age children that would rather have 12-month school sessions and not have any time off. So they're on both sides of that issue as far as that goes, and you have to look at what the consequences are.
And Franklin pointed out, he's right, most of this is controlled on a local level, although you have to, you don't want one school going at one time.
There's a minimum number of instruction days that are required.
That's the
you got to have that, but you can do anything to accomplish that the local school system wants to do.
Yeah.
Anyway, I would love to have you come back up here sometime and join us on Backfire.
Can y'all meet a little later? I've come from Lookout Valley way over there. I have to fight the 8 o'clock traffic going through Chattanooga. But you want me on here again, I'll be on here again.
We'd love to have you back up here. I think there's a lot of conversation that we can have and go further in depth with.
Good deal.
I want to congratulate you and tell you how much I appreciate you serving.
Thank you.
And giving back. And good luck in the election. And today is the last day of early voting, folks. Get out and vote.
And I just want to add to my rolling update on socialism in Venezuela. They're now weighing the money. Instead of counting it, it takes so many dollars to buy things because of the inflation. They are literally weighing the money on scales rather than actually counting it. There's socialism for you, folks.
It's not dollars, it's pesos.
Bolivars.
Is that what they are?
Hey, folks, let me say one thing. There will be another scandal on Trump before it's over with. The Democrats have too much going on. Bye-bye. We'll see you next week.
You've been listening to Backfire with Steve Hickson, John Stanberry, and Franklin Chansey. Catch them again on Whoop FM at noon today and every